people who actually give a shit about the earth and the environment should be pretty upset today. Listen to what the government is doing now. A coal lawyer, a chemical industry lobbyist, and a libertarian scholar who recently accused the Environmental Protection Agency of regulatory terrorism will join a lone advocate for science as witnesses before a Tuesday congressional hearing titled, Making EPA Great Again. The four witnesses will discuss how EPA can pursue environmental protection and protect public health by relying on sound science, according to the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. So, Lamar Smith is the head of this committee, and he is a well-known climate science denier. He's led the committee since 2013. So that means the House Committee on Science, from at least 2013 and on, has been anti-science. And again, look at who they're inviting to discuss this issue of making the EPA great again. It's a coal lawyer, a chemical industry lobbyist, a libertarian scholar, and one person who actually believes in climate science. Look, man, this is the problem with the Republicans. They insist things which are no longer debatable are still debatable. This is no different. At this point, this is no different than the people who say, well, okay, so you want to teach the spherical Earth theory. We got to lay all options out there on the table. Give everybody, we got to be open-minded. We got to be tolerant of different ideas, so allow into the debate the flat Earth theory. But that's just not true. It's not correct. Why would we let that in when we know it's false? Well, it's the same thing with this. It's not true to, say that climate change isn't happening. But I just let it into the debate. Let's have a coal lawyer, a chemical industry lobbyist, and a libertarian scholar all tell us, don't worry about pollution, don't worry about climate change, don't worry about regulating the marketplace, because that's actually evil and wrong and bad in principle. So let's all just let unlimited pollution happen, go further and further down the road of more fossil fuels, more climate change, more greenhouse effect, and everybody can shut up. The Republicans treat the government like it's not its own thing. You see what I mean? So, like, take Wall Street, for example. Their philosophy is they're the smartest guys in the room, so let them do whatever. Let them be the ones to, call their own shots and self-regulate. And their philosophy is, well, the government doesn't know what they're doing, so let Wall Street do whatever they want to do. Yeah, but that's the problem is then greed and recklessness take over, and they care more about short-term profits than the long-term viability of the economy, and then everything goes bust, and there's a recession or a depression. Well, it's the same thing with this. Like, oh, what do you mean? The government is not its own thing. It shouldn't be involved in regulating, coal companies and oil companies. Why not let in the experts from the coal companies and the oil companies and let them make their own decisions? I mean, they know their industries better than anybody else, right? Except that disregards the whole problem of externalities. In a free marketplace, you have this thing called externalities, which is unintended consequences of a free marketplace. One of those things is pollution. So in a capitalist system, you can't account for pollution because all that matters is the business and the client and making a deal for them to. And if there's, if you have a plant that creates something, but you have a lot of toxic waste as a result of it, well, the best thing for the company is to just eliminate it in the cheapest way possible. And sometimes that means dumping it in the river right next to the factory. And hey, we saved money and we made more money, but guess what? It hurts everybody because now the water's poisoned. Well, that's why you need the government to say, well, now we have a new regulation. You can't dump it in that river because it's polluting everything and screwing up the environment. So now you have to dispose of this in a safe, legal way. And even though it costs you more money, it's par for the course. It's got to be the case. But the Republicans say, no, let's allow in people from the coal companies, people from the oil companies to make the own regulations that they should abide by. Well, shock, all the regulations they want are either non-existent or they're regulations that would favor industry and give them maximum leeway to pollute as much as possible and make as much money as possible. So it's not legitimate. You have to have an adversarial situation set up where the government is the adversary and the regulatory body against oil, chemical companies, coal companies, because you need to have a check on rampant capitalism. You need to have refs in the game. So you can't, they shouldn't even be in the fucking room, a coal lawyer, a chemical industry lobbyist, and a libertarian scholar, when talking about the government's job in regulating for the environment, to make sure the environment is safe and clean for everybody. You know whose job it is to regulate, to make sure the environment is safe and clean for everybody? The government. So no coal company lobbyist or fucking lawyer or libertarian scholar, they got nothing to do with this. It's totally separate. They do what they got to do. They want to push for the industry. They want to do propaganda to try to get people on their side. Go do your propaganda elsewhere. This is the EPA, bitch. This is where we protect the environment. This is where we regulate for the environment. But they don't believe in it. They don't believe in the basic functions of government. This is why they say, Trump has tried to appoint to the Department of Energy. He appointed Rick Perry. Rick Perry famously said, I want to eliminate the Department of Energy. For the EPA, he picked Pruitt. Pruitt just sued the EPA. He's been in a legal battle with the EPA, and he's a climate science denier. So these are people who are appointed to lead the agencies who don't believe in the agencies. That's the point. That's what they're doing here. That's what Lamar Smith is doing. That's what this hearing is about. Oh, let's make the EPA great again by handcuffing it and making it not do its job and have libertarian scholars and fucking coal lobbyists come in here and do their propaganda to say, oh, look at that. The government never needs to regulate the companies. So it's a ruse, man. And the funny thing is, they think the conspiracy is on the other side. So they say, well, obviously there's a worldwide government conspiracy where all these scientists get together and they try to get more grant money. Guys, big science has a stranglehold on all of us. Big science. Look, I have a cousin who is a scientist, worked in the U.S. Government as a scientist. Now he's no longer working in that position, but he did. They make nothing. They make nothing. Big science isn't a thing. You can't get rich doing research, doing studies, and the little money you get, you have to fucking beg for. So there's no conspiracy of scientists to get more grant money. That doesn't exist. You know where the real conspiracy is? The oil companies buying people to push their propaganda and their fake narrative that pollution isn't a problem, these chemicals aren't a problem, and climate change isn't happening. There's the real conspiracy. But they flipped the conspiracy. They argue that the conspiracy is of the government and of the scientists. The conspiracy is of the oil companies pushing pseudo-intellectuals and bought fake scientists who are the same scientists that argue that cigarettes don't cause cancer. Now they're out there arguing climate science isn't happening. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Climate change isn't happening, and we should really listen to the lobbyists to craft EPA policy. We should really listen to coal lawyers to craft EPA policy. We should really listen to libertarian scholars who have a principled objection to regulation. We should listen to them on regulatory policy. I wonder what their conclusion is going to be. It's going to be no regulation. Duh. So I'm sick of this shit. We have people who run the science committee who don't believe in science. Meanwhile, climate change is going further and further and getting worse and worse, having more natural disasters, breaking temperature record after temperature record. Not only do we need a body that believes in climate science, they gotta slam on the brakes and go hard in the other direction. So we're marching towards the abyss, and they're whistling Dixie the entire time.